Well, let me tell you something, brother.
Snort, snort, snort.
Kogan.
Drip, snort, snort.
I got the drip. Go. First question. Excuse me. Hey, Phil. So a few weeks ago, you mentioned that you were okay with people donating to churches if they feel like they get something out of it. It's kind of similar to how people would donate to you, being a content creator, because they feel like they're getting something out of your content. Even though there's pastors that make 7 figures of money, do you think that churches need to pay taxes? So I don't know what on earth the first 2 sentences had anything to do with anything, because you could completely ignore that, right? The real question here is, should churches pay taxes? All right? My opinion, the answer is yes. Yes, yes, yes. I don't understand the whole idea behind religious groups getting tax exempt status in the United States. Tax exempt should be for something that is meant to be completely charity. So for example, if someone is running an organization that the entire purpose of the organization is to gather funding that will then be redistributed out to the public, you know, I don't know, Toys for Tots or something like that, right? You're donating toys, the toys are going to go right to kids, and the only money that's actually used is to pay the people working for Toys for Tots. That's it. That should be maybe tax exempt. That I can understand. But organized religion is not charity. They do practice charity as part of their organization, some of them anyway, but I don't see why organized religion gets away with the tax exempt status. Especially when you, like you mentioned, there's people who are involved in organized religion that make money, that benefit directly from the supposedly charitable donations that people are giving. Can I give you an example? You'll be interested in hearing this one, okay? Here's what happened in my actual church that I went to when I was a kid. I went to a church, it was a Roman Catholic church, and there was someone who was a pastor, I forgot his name at this point, but he was in supposedly his 30s, okay? So he's the pastor of the church, and everyone was actually, oh, it's controversial that the pastor of the church would be this young, because usually a pastor would be much older, like someone in their 50s or 60s, and this guy was the leader of the church. He was the one in charge of this church, and he was only in his 30s, okay? So the church was successful. The church was, everything was going well, and all of a sudden, one day we hear the pastor is gone, completely gone. It was probably 2 years after this guy had been a pastor of the church. Okay, the pastor's gone. What happened? The church said nothing. They didn't want to speak of it. What was going on? So come to find out, when people actually dug up some evidence of what actually had happened, here's the true story of what happened. The pastor took the money that was going to the church, and he used it to build himself a personal gym. He had all kinds of personal home workout equipment that he had taken the donations to the church and bought with that money. And he had made this big workout room where he was doing all this stuff. And then come to find out, he was sleeping with one of the parishioners. Yes, he actually got into a romantic relationship with one of the women who attended the church. And he was using the money to pay for their relationship. He was taking them out on dates. He was going on trips with her. And all this was finally reported and discovered. And they reported it to the diocese. And the diocese investigated and found it that it was true. And they basically kicked him out of the church. He was excommunicated. He was completely thrown out, right? Now, you may argue, all right, this is the exemption to the rule, right? But the thing is, there is absolutely no one tracking every single contribution that goes in from to any of these organizations. You think that the government is sitting there fully auditing the funds that go to the church or go to any of these non-profit, full-time organized religions? No. So they are likely getting away with so much that you're not aware of. You're giving your money to this organized religion, and there is no accounting for what actually happens with that money, right? Now, we many weeks ago watched a video about how some of these preachers claim to be healers and claim to do things that everyone knows they're not doing. But we argued, is it fair that if people still want to give them their money because they feel like they're getting something out of it? I mean, arguably, it's kind of like what would they say, buyer beware? You have to be smarter than the scam, right? So if you actually believe these guys are healers, you're an idiot. But if maybe going to that religion and actually getting some inspiration out of the words that person says or whatever, right? And you're getting something out of it and you want to donate to that religion, fine. You know, if you're getting something positive out of it, you want to give back, why not? Right? As long as you're aware of what's going on and you're not being fooled by some kind of a scam, correct? But should that organized religion be tax exempt? Why? Is that church, is that preacher giving back everything to people? No. We already said some of these people are making 7 figures. They've got private jets. They've got giant mansions. Why are they not paying taxes on that money? I don't get it. I don't understand. Maybe originally when they created the tax law, it made sense. But what's happened is people have found, just like everything in life, people found a way to abuse it. How do I take this thing that was well-intentioned and corrupt it and twist it into something that I can personally benefit from? So, if anything, I mean, maybe there should be incredibly strict limitations on what could be considered a tax-exempt status when it comes to something like that. And there should actually be people who are auditing the income to make sure that the income that goes to organized religion actually is going to profitable things and not, oh, the guy bought a gym for himself. This guy's a fucking filthy rich asshole with 5 cars and a mansion and a jet. That is ridiculous. Why on earth are they exempt? Essentially what they've done, they found a way to make a profitable business. That's fine. But you pay your taxes like everybody else. It's bullshit. I don't think that they should be tax exempt in any way, shape, or form. That's my take. You can disagree, that's okay. I think that these organizations absolutely should be paying taxes unless they want to be fully transparent with the government about where all of their money goes. Then maybe they can get the tax exempt status. But how many of those 7-figure preachers would poof up and vanish if they actually had to have accountability for the money, right? So there you go. That's my take, okay? We have one more question for this week. What do I think about Singapore's Independence Day now that I watched all those videos for the private patron react and the highlight that we watched in today's episode? You know, in general, we kind of already touched upon it when we watched that, but I will essentially summarize my thoughts here for you guys. The way I see it, and again, I only know from very limited exposure that I've had to Singapore and its culture and its government. So certainly I'm only talking as someone who has limited information. But from what I've seen, okay, from what I've seen, that government is incredibly strict, and yes, it will restrict some of the freedoms of its citizens. But its citizens seem to be okay with that because they say, well, we don't have violent crime. We don't have people stealing, people causing, giant crimes, no one attacking each other, no one's, hijacking things, taking over buses, no one's robbing banks. Literally, that doesn't exist. You don't have firearms in Singapore. They're not allowed. If someone were to do a crime like that, like literally they showed in their show of force that I saw, they're like, okay, this bus got hijacked, right? And so here's how we would deal with it. They drive up in their armored vehicle, they get out, they execute the driver. The guy gets out with a gun, they execute him right on the spot. They're all dead. They actually blew the side of the fucking bus open. They just blew it up. And then they got the people out, and that was the end, right? So you can't fuck around. There's no incarceration. There's no rehabilitation. It's you did the crime, you're done. That's it. And because it's that kind of everything or nothing mentality there, they don't have the crime that we have here in the United States. But I think a lot of people would look at that and say, holy shit, that's absolutely ridiculous to have that kind of a consequence for a bad choice in life, right? Because, for example, if you walk down the street and you're found littering in Singapore, you get arrested, you're incarcerated, you're fined, and in extreme cases, you could get actual physical punishment, like being caned or beaten. Like, that's what you get. That's for littering. I threw something on the ground, you get fucked up, okay? Now, is that better or worse than what we have in the United States? Again, I said this earlier today. That's subjective. Some people might say, I think it's better because in the United States, crime is so rampant, everyone gets away with everything, there's no consequence, and life is chaotic and crazy and unsafe, and we hate it. Other people might be like, well, where I live, there's not that much crime, you know, so I think that's extreme. I would never want that. I think that we should all have personal freedoms, and we should have the opportunity to make a mistake and recover from it and not have extreme punishments. So it's a completely subjective take. You know, here in Washington State, crime has gotten exponentially worse in the last 3 to 4 years. We've got rampant thieves. Everywhere you go, they're shoplifting. They're doing awful things. You know, for example, I'm not kidding. This happened to me. Back in June, someone stole the entire tire assembly off of my vehicle. It was parked in a public place at a local mall. Someone took my car, pushed it up on a jack, and stole the entire tire off of my car and left the car like that. I then out of pocket had to pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars to get it replaced. I filed a police report, and the police did not even opt to investigate. They just left it alone. Why? Because our laws are so different. The police have limitations on what they can do. They're likely out there investigating so many other extreme crimes, violent crimes, murders, shootings, gang-related things, drug things, that the stolen tire is nothing to them. So I get screwed. I lost hundreds upon hundreds of dollars, and I will never get any follow-up and no protection against that. How messed up is that, right? If that happened in Singapore, the Singaporean government probably not only would have investigated, they would have got a team of people investigating the video footage, surveillance, finding the person, arresting the person, permanently incarcerating them for years and years, insane amounts of punishment to make sure they never do anything like that ever again. So what's better, right? We can all sit here and we can argue either way. You know, make it your own reasoning. But, you know, in Singapore, is everything as democratic and free as it is in the United States? No, it is not. You will sacrifice personal freedoms to get to that level of control, correct? Lawfulness, right? Where is the perfect balance? I don't know. I don't know where the perfect balance is. Certainly, I think it should be better than what we have in the United States, but do you think that people should just be publicly executed for committing a crime? I mean, you know, I don't know. Somewhere in the middle, right? I guess. So, you know, there you go. I mean, my take is certainly they have a better control over their country with the way that they have that military force and the way that they do things with their police. At the same time, you know, at what level do you say that the personal freedoms have been too much sacrificed, right? I don't know. Certainly I don't live there. And the thing is, what I've seen is kind of propaganda. I've seen propaganda videos about, you know, how they celebrate their National Independence Day, how their military operates, and that's all well and good, but I haven't heard anything from the other side of the fence. Are there stories of people who say the government here is way too strict, it's ridiculous, we don't like it, here's why we think we should reform it? I haven't heard that side. When you only hear one side, you can only have a one-sided take, right? You only hear the good, not the bad. Here in the United States, there's people who say good and bad all the time, right? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the Q&A for the week.
I got the drip going. 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 I got the drip going.
It's like a faucet that's dripping. You can't make it stop.
So what do you want me to do? Have a mute button that every second I'm tapping the mute button just in case I'm gonna have to clear? Like, this is what I mean. These dumb kids. This is what it is. It's dumb kids.